everybody. Welcome to the Web3 Business Podcast. My name is Rob, and I have a guest here today, Sasha. Hello, Sasha.
Hello, thanks for having me, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about Arcanum Ventures, but let's just start with yourself first. In terms of how did you even get in the Web3 space? What kind of journey did you have to actually end up in crypto?
Well, I guess it's a bit of an unconventional journey, honestly. My background is in chemical engineering, project management, and process engineering. I worked in chemical manufacturing industry and in the oil industry for a long time. After COVID first started, changing things around the world, countries were being locked down. I was working internationally, and I was sent back to the US and eventually laid off. And so I started a journey of entrepreneurship just from distaste in the corporate world. And I ended up working with a venture studio in Thailand. When I was traveling, I met a friend who was working there. And it's funny because a lot of people, they have this mental barrier of how to get into crypto and work in this industry. They think that they need very specific skills, and they believe that maybe they don't have them or it's difficult to learn them, but there's an extreme lack of outer industry skills and experience in this space still. So the funny thing that I found was a lot of my experience in project management, in engineering, in process engineering specifically, in solving complex problems applied very quickly in the crypto space from an operations perspective, from a data analytics perspective, and so was able to move in and immediately have an impact. So I worked with a venture studio for a couple of years. We worked on taking projects to market, launching tokens, etc. I built and headed a business intelligence department. And then me and my good friend that worked at the studio decided to go out on our own and start Arcanum Ventures after we saw maybe a number of things in the crypto startup and token launch space that we considered to be a bit unsavory. And that's kind of where the ethos of Arcanum Ventures comes in. It's not about speculation in digital assets that might or might not be backed by technology. It's about that technology itself and the impact that blockchain infrastructure can have on existing industries, existing problems. And so this is the core ethos of Arcanum Ventures. It's trying to take impactful technologies to market, working with a number of people, financially backing and investing in projects as well that we believe are strong in the long term.
Yeah, and what you mentioned about the backgrounds of different people, I couldn't agree more that this space is what it is because of people from different backgrounds that are going to space, and especially not just from the technical perspective, because I think maybe that's also partly what you mentioned, right? That there's a heavy focus sometimes on developers, which is great because that's creating the whole infrastructure, but to have people in a space that come from different areas of expertise, that makes the whole thing work, because in the end it's not just about technology, right? It's about adoption and the social aspects around it, and so that is indeed that is very interesting. And so you ended up in Thailand, and so I think for many of our listeners, I think almost everybody knows people in crypto. There are several kind of projects there that Thailand is one of those destinations, right, as well for crypto. It's not known as a hub from kind of an official standpoint, I think, compared to maybe Singapore and Dubai and other hotspots, but there are a lot of kind of fellow entrepreneurs, people like yourself based there. You mentioned you kind of found yourself traveling there, but what makes you kind of stick around there as your destination?
Well, I was accustomed to working internationally before. When I was working in the oil field, I kind of packed my bags, moved all my things into storage, got rid of the house, and moved abroad a number of years prior. And so I'd made my bed when it came to living outside of the US, exploring more of what the world has to offer, and living in beautiful and unique places that really piqued my curiosity. And this shift from an operations in field at location career to a digital lifestyle was something that I really enjoyed doing. And I think a lot of people within the tech space that are afforded this luxury kind of develop this entrepreneurial spirit because they're able to be a decision maker on a day-to-day basis. They are, the authority in what they do on a day-to-day basis and where they go and who they interact with. And so you see a lot of people in the digital nomad space or remote worker space getting into crypto because it's more of an international industry. It lives online. There are many teams that are dispersed throughout the globe, and it kind of goes back to the ethos of a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, where people can interact and contribute in their own way, and contribute in a singular purpose to drive a company forward. So I haven't really looked back. I love living internationally. I think this lifestyle is something that's perfect for me. And again, I'm afforded that luxury of selecting where I want to live. And so I've been focusing on living in very comfortable, relaxing places. I love nature personally. So living near the beach or in the mountains, this allows me to be the most productive and get the most work done, which is the priority right now in my life with everything going on in the markets and everything going on in our company.
Right. Yeah, I think that can be great advice as well for potential other entrepreneurs that are looking to start something, to have a base where you feel the most productive. Indeed, you can be flexible. I think a lot of new kind of companies or projects that are coming in, they are looking for marketing methods, for example, and they still think in like the old-fashioned ways, let's say the Web 2 ways, where they're thinking about, I want to boost things in Asia, I want to boost things in North America or Europe. And I think a lot of people like yourself, kind of the crypto natives, they don't necessarily think from those in those terms, right? Crypto is an international global phenomenon. That's the whole basis of this technology and this movement. So that is also pretty good to hear. So let's talk about Arcanum a little bit there. So you started it several years ago with your friend from the Other Venture Studio. How did that? So I assume you guys wanted to do it a little bit differently. So I'd love to hear what your angle is there, but also just your journey on starting this. Can I call it a venture studio? Can I call it an accelerator, a VC? How do you guys define yourself?
It's difficult to define ourselves. I guess we've got three primary verticals at Arcanum Ventures. We have a venture capital investment fund. It's a boutique VC. It's self-funded currently, and we're looking at expanding in the near future, potentially starting an ecosystem fund with LPs. But Carmelo, my co-founder, and I, we come from a more traditional investing background in value investing, securities, and stocks. And so we took this unique fundamental approach to investing in technologies within the space. I think that was a big difference that we saw in crypto immediately, is that people were making these investment decisions based on very little information or metrics that give a surface level understanding of the promise behind a project when they go to market. We don't really like a lot of things in the speculative crypto or digital asset space, and so we try and dive deeper on the tech, and this goes back again to our ethos of understanding how blockchain infrastructure, blockchain technology, and digital assets can apply to industries or problems that exist outside of Web3, because this is where real adoption occurs. There's a lot of DeFi infrastructure out there, and one of the reasons I'm not so bullish on DeFi is because I see this constant cycle of value and currency being recirculated within the industry. There's nothing new coming in. And so from my perspective, it's not accomplishing a whole lot. And from a fundamental perspective as well, the user base and people that are interested in a lot of DeFi are solely profit driven. So they might not be interested at all within the underlying technology. But we tend to take a look at these types of fundamentals when it comes to investing. And one of the more interesting things that we've started pivoting into since we started our company is token economics design. It's something that I was undertaking at the venture studio previously, and we saw a huge need for this as well, because you would speak with many founders and investors. They would talk about tokenomics, and what they usually refer to, which is a pet peeve of ours, is a pie chart and a vesting schedule. And I think everyone is underestimating the importance of tokenomics in the space. This is just one small piece of it. And so we started to take a more innovative, product-focused approach to tokenomics design, where we consider how can a digital asset tie into a particular product more, and individual features within that product that actually improve the user experience. Maybe in a game, it improves the player journey, it increases stakes and competitive gameplay. On a sort of decentralized network, it offers a set of incentives and accountability for people that are operating on that network. And so we take this novel approach because at the end of the day, a success for a company means users wanting to come on board and use that product and enjoying it. And a cryptocurrency shouldn't just be slapped onto anything for the sake of it. It needs to make sense. And so that's kind of our philosophy when it comes to that. Aside from those two verticals, the tokenomics and the strategic advisory that we offer a lot of companies in the form of marketing, go-to-market strategy, etc., and then the investing arm of Arcanum Ventures, we also focus a lot on content creation. And so this is a big gap that we saw in the space as well. There are a lot of people that are being funneled into this industry with promises of high returns, and they're being funneled in by, let's call them influencers. Some people call them KOLs, or key opinion leaders. But the irony is very few of them understand the impact of the technology in blockchain infrastructure and cryptocurrency. And so what our goal is to create content that informs not only founders that are starting a company and they're encountering the same challenges over and over again and share that wisdom, but also investors, whether they're institutional or retail based, to understand how to vet an investment properly, what to look out for, and even potential scams or controversy to look out for. And this is one of the very big things that we do with the content side is we create on-chain analytics data, because there's so much power in this readily and publicly available data that people are completely overlooking. So we've got these three main pillars of Arcanum, and the main focus on all of them is to try and improve things in the space for the better, is to try and improve everyday aspects of people's lives with technology and help keep people a little bit more informed in how to do that.
Right. Well, a lot of things to touch upon there. I think.
I'm rambling for a while. I apologize.
No, there's a lot in there to potentially unpack. But I think two things maybe that might be of interest to our listeners here is obviously, well, the first question would be, you guys have a focus on tokenomics. Does that mean you are focused on token investments, or do you also take equity positions?
When it comes to our tokenomics design services, we offer a number of services as an advisory firm, but we offer full tokenomics build-outs. And so a lot of the cases that we see is there is a founding team, they have a concept and potentially some development underway for creating some digital asset infrastructure. And typically they're trying to solve some sort of problem with cryptocurrency or blockchain. The token needs to be there for one reason or another, which is already one of the biggest green flags from an investor perspective. And so they need to understand how to make it a little bit more user-focused, product-focused, to round out the entire offering. And so we bring this interesting perspective of not only being an investor and understanding what looks attractive for us, but also the tokenomics perspective in what is scalable and sustainable. Because a token economy refers more so to a digital asset like a cryptocurrency that's part of a larger business model. And that business model includes fiat revenue generation, stablecoin generation, treasury management, and crypto. And so our tokenomics design services, it's quite ironic. It doesn't just refer to structuring a token economy. It refers to the integration of a digital asset into a business model and the overall product. And so that's something that we end up creating to look attractive for us to invest in. And this is the goal for a lot of projects that we work with. They're looking to bootstrap the development. They want to take a token to market because it needs to be there, but also as an investment vehicle to get some capital to continue their development cycle and potentially offer something that can accrue value for investors, whether they're on the market buying OTC, retail investors participating in a pre-sale, or institutional investors earlier on.
Right, but I mean, when you participate, right, after these advisory services, would you take a token stake, or would you take a stake in the equity of the project?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I apologize. I didn't address your original question. Yeah, so when we work with these teams, we understand in the beginning stages of starting a company, they need to be extremely fluid and flexible when it comes to capital. Typically, we work with these teams in a bespoke manner. And the reason we're able to do that is because we see a lot of value in what they're building. And so we want to offer them something that they can work with and create a win-win situation, because at the end of the day, the working relationship is everything. So we will take token equity or corporate equity, or both, in all of the cases that we work with these teams. And I think that's important because a lot of people in the service agency space within cryptocurrency, this industry, they offer their services for some sort of upfront payment or retainer, stablecoin, fiat, etc. But in the long term, they're not so invested in the success of these projects. And so being able to have some skin in the game is really important for these founding teams to feel like they're bringing on the right people, they can grant them some equity, and they're incentivized to build the best thing possible, because in the long term, that means that they're more successful with the success of the company. So we do accept token equity, corporate equity, in many different cases.
Okay, and then so how you usually work with your projects? They come in through your deal flow. Then you have a conversation with them about their particular needs, whether it's tokenomics or strategic advisory. Those things are usually, I guess it's a bespoke way of working with them, but usually there's kind of fixed fees for those. And then once you guys feel comfortable to invest, then you will take either the corporate equity or the token.
Actually, it's kind of reverse in that sense. Every engagement is different. And we look at the fundamentals of a project first. We look at the business viability, the product, the security and transparency. We look at the team's history and background, their marketing reach, and then we understand how viable is this business to succeed. And so from the get-go, we may engage and begin supporting just for a promise of future equity, because we believe in the product, we believe in the team, and we believe that they're going to bring something impactful to market. And so again, it's on a case-by-case basis, but just as an example, we worked with a project that was building a DPIN network for a decentralized diagnostics network for telco and ISP providers globally. And they started building several years back, and they didn't even think about fundraising, unfortunately, until the market started to die down a couple of years ago. And so they had a lot of trouble trying to raise funds, but we spoke with the team a number of times. I met them in person in Bangkok originally, and I understood the impact that they were having. And so we decided to hop on, build their token economy, and support from an advisory perspective with very little promise, future equity, and hoping that this thing goes to market and it has a huge impact and it can develop a lot of revenue just based on the demand for what they're offering. And so this is just one example of how we see there's a future in a project or what a team is building, and we want to be involved in any way possible. And we'll structure an agreement with them that works. But in the long term, obviously it needs to make sense for us. So we wouldn't take equity in something that we don't believe is going to be important or innovative. In fact, we wouldn't work with a project that we don't believe is going to be important or innovative.
And in terms of this vetting process, for sure, I mean, this is kind of a highly custom thing, but for our listeners out there, right, they might want to start or they have their own Web3 project. Are there any particular kind of requirements or things that you look out for? Obviously, you mentioned, like tokenomics that makes sense. Or what are your main pillars there when you're checking out new projects?
Well, there's a lot that goes into it, honestly, and it's interesting because we've been commissioned by a number of investment funds, launch pads, and other players in the space to create research documentation to help them make a better informed investment decision. We've published a number of fundamental analysis reports on our website and our blog, and you could view that there. And we also create weekly videos on our YouTube channel, which we call the 10-minute eye test. The irony there is that we take 10 minutes to look at a hot and upcoming token launch project to understand if this is something that we would invest in or don't invest in. And the point of the video is to help people understand you can't possibly do enough research in 10 minutes to make a well-informed investment decision. So it's either no, there's too many red flags, or I'm gonna look deeper because it looks cool. But on the fundamental side, when trying to make a decision, there's always a number of factors to look at. And so you want to look at, first and foremost, the product and the impact that could have in the industry, because this is an emerging and growing industry. There's things being created every single day. And sometimes you see people creating things because it seems cool and it doesn't exist, but maybe there's no actual market or demand for this. And so you need to understand the business viability of people wanting to use this product, and then the product having an appropriate business model that's not going to drive people away, but potentially help them understand, I can give you this of value, and then this product gives me this of value. And then for diving a little bit deeper, you can start to look at the team and the experience. Do they have the tools and the resources? In that sense, I mean skills and experience and connections potentially to build this thing, to start a company, to take it to market. And so a team that's done it before already has a proven record of that gives us a green flag. You look at things like their attention to security, their attention to the cap table and the backers, the resourcefulness of the team, and understanding where are the partnerships that they're making and why are they making those partnerships. Are these connections that they're building going to help facilitate the team to bring a product to market quicker or better, or grow their network on the business development front? And then again, in some cases, the marketing and the content is very important, because some of these products within this industry, they require users. You need people to come in and build on your network or to use your product. And the common trope stands true. If you might be building the best thing in the world, but if nobody knows about it, no one's going to use it. And so the idea of marketing reach and footprint and community building and size obviously come into play, because that means that there's a higher likelihood of users coming in on day one and using the actual product.
That's good to know. And in terms of your deal flow, how do projects reach out to you? Or do you have your own analysis team that kind of finds projects? Like how does your deal flow usually work?
Well, it's kind of multifaceted. We've got an onboarding form on our website. Teams can visit our website, Arcanum.Ventures, and they can select the form on our front page, work with us. And so that is a funnel to get people into our pipeline, request financial backing through investment, and also request potential advisory support for their project. And so we'll have a team internally that analyzes all of these leads. This team also is actively analyzing the space, understanding what's coming to market, what looks promising or interesting, and then we reach out to them, try and book a call, talk to them, and most importantly, see what their needs are and see if we could fit in. One of the very, very amazing luxuries that we've had at Arcanum Ventures is my co-founders is very, very adept in marketing, community building, and business development. So we've created a powerful marketing machine. And so we do have a lot of deal flow coming our way, but eventually, every now and again, we need to reach out to projects. But one of the most important things of marketing is understanding what a project's needs are. And we never try and sell ourselves on something. We never try and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. Let me get in the door. Because again, if there's a project that's building something cool and impactful, we don't want to try and hop on board if there's nothing we can help with. That's not doing the industry any good. And then we see deals or investment opportunities or cool projects just in random communities, LinkedIn, Telegram, Twitter. There's all sorts of places where people can stay in tune and in touch and see what's happening and what's coming to market. It's just about keeping your eyes open and having an open mind about what things can do in, again, your everyday life or even in the space, like what can it improve. So we take a look at a number of different places as far as sourcing opportunities.
All right, and in terms of your in-house team, right? You mentioned also your co-founder, and then how many? So do you have other people in-house, or like how's your team structured?
And so the team or the company is headed by myself and my co-founder Carmelo. And then we've got a number of people in different functions. We're actually quite a small team. We've got a principal research analyst, we've got a marketing specialist, we've got a technical advisor, and then we've got a development specialist. And so a lot of the focus is across, there's this crossover in a lot of different functional areas, but we do have people that are experts in their own right. And so we've got a team of 5 people, sometimes 6, depending on the need. And we like to keep it lean, honestly. One of the things that we see too often in startup is teams scaling up quite quickly, and then potentially mismanaging things or essentially driving up their overhead costs. But for us, it runs really, really well, like a well-oiled machine. We've got people that are doing specific tasks on a day-to-day basis, and they're expert in those tasks. Carmelo and I cross over in a lot of different things, and there are simply things that you cannot delegate. For example, content creation and writing is one thing that we tried as an example to offload onto some help coming in. But you just can't get your message across. You can't get your thoughts or insights across if you start to delegate some of these things. So we understand there is a necessary evil, per se, of having to do things on your own to make sure that you're getting the best quality. And so we do take a lot of the workload on ourselves. Unfortunately, we're very, very busy, and we can't afford to take on all of the different engagements that look cool or interesting. But in some way, it's a plus because we get to work with the best teams in the space, and we get to be very selective and choosy about who we're working with. So we like keeping a small team.
And I noticed on your portfolio there are quite a number of like Web3 gaming projects. Is that something like a conscious direction, or are you ambiguous about the type of projects? Do you have any kind of strategy there?
It's really funny that you bring that up. Honestly, we're more so focused on blockchain infrastructure, and when we started the company, it was around the peak of the GameFi or Web3 gaming hype in the last cycle, and we were working a lot on tokenomics designs, and we were incredibly vocal and critical about GameFi. You see it with Axie Infinity and many Web3 games coming to market. They had these completely unsustainable token economies. They were emissions and inflation heavy. They were essentially just granting value to anyone. And then there was this entire demographic of gamers that was they were simply hopping from game to game for yield farming opportunities. And so we would constantly poo-poo on GameFi and create a lot of content around this. And we were very critical of it. And ironically, to our surprise, it attracted many teams in the GameFi space that felt this kind of alignment and vision. And many of them approached us and said, I like what you're talking about here. I also see this problem in these structures as far as the token economies and business models go. Can we please work together for my new project, my new game coming to market? And so this is ironically and very surprisingly led us to work with some very impressive teams in the GameFi space. And we had the luxury and the benefit of creating some fantastic business models and GameFi structures on the token economy side for these teams. So it kind of, our foray into GameFi happened accidentally. And it's not really our focus, but at one time it was the majority of our advisory business coming through. And it's cool because we get to have an impact in a space that we see many problems in. So we kind of love that to some extent.
Right. And what are your final question here? We're running out of time. What is your kind of future vision for Arcanum, the space in general? Where do you guys personally are heading in? You mentioned like the gaming kind of hype from a few years ago, or that you participated in as well. What do you see for the space and for yourself for, let's say, this year, obviously, where we're running into a little bit more of a bullish scenario, and maybe even next year?
Oh man, there's so much. So just on the topic of GameFi, I think there's a lot of interesting technological developments happening, especially with the cross section of artificial intelligence and gaming. And so you see a lot of innovations coming to market in the sense of AI large language models being used for NPC development, potentially AI visual and development models being used for landscape development. So like one example is if you think an RPG game like Skyrim, based on your current player's progress, the holdings in your backpack, and your proficiency level. Let's say there's some side quest that pops up, some NPC character asks you to go save their dog in a cave somewhere. You could have an AI model develop out the landscape of the cave, populate it with characters, and potentially populate it with loot that's attractive for you. And so you have this ever-changing landscape and development costs that are offset by automating that process. So that's one cool thing that we're seeing. But when it comes to the cryptocurrency side within GameFi, we've changed our philosophy quite a bit. We see a token fitting into games in a number of specific ways now, and that refers more so to the idea of incentivizing user-generated content to offset creative costs, a cryptocurrency potentially increasing stakes in competitive gameplay, and a cryptocurrency coming into play in micro-governance models for arbitration or dispute resolution within games. So these are three what we would consider to be primary utilities. They need to be there. The crypto needs to be there to facilitate that. Another sector we're really bullish on is real-world asset tokenization. Me personally, very, very bullish on tokenization of real estate. I think there's a lot of developments in the space, especially around legislation. I know the Wyoming DAO LLC was a great first step in legitimizing the DAO backing behind real estate tokenization. And this is a model that's been copy-pasted across a number of jurisdictions globally. So the demand is there from the real estate market. The demand is there from people that want to invest in real estate, actual real estate, but they don't have the finances to do so. And the demand is there from a lot of institutional firms that see these projections reaching up into the trillions within the next 10 years. And then also, I'm quite bullish on decentralized physical infrastructure networks, DePIN, although there's a lot of DePIN projects coming to market that aren't truly DePIN. But it goes back to the primary ethos of cryptocurrency and decentralization is decentralized networks that can collectively contribute to a singular purpose and help improve something within infrastructure. And so there's a couple of projects that we're working with now and a couple that we're looking to invest in that have DePIN networks that are using these networks to solve real world problems, much like this telco provider company that I was telling you about. So these are three areas that we're looking at specifically right now amongst a number of other ones, but they're the most that I'm personally, they're the three that I'm personally the most excited about right now.
Interesting. And you mentioned before we started this podcast, you just came from Eve, Vietnam, and I'm sure Vitalik might have also touched on that point you mentioned. Maybe quickly as the final point here. Did he mention specifically as well about AI and what it means for Ethereum? Anything about that?
Oof, oh man, it's a big one to unpackage. Vitalik spoke a lot about AI and the cross section of AI and cryptocurrency, and so this is a really hotly debated topic right now in the world of crypto because AI is very much a narrative for investing. But there are a lot of issues when it comes to the privatized development of large language models and AGI. very little transparency, and very little insight into the data and information being used to train these models. And so there's a huge movement in, for example, the creative space to monetize their data to train AI models that are simply scraping everything public and private off the internet. But much of what Vitalik was mentioning is the idea of bringing in transparency into AI models, more specifically open source models that can be easily audited and contributed to, incentivizing the training through decentralized token supplies. So people that would help train the model or provide information or data are rewarded in doing so, because that AI model might eventually be used as part of a business to generate revenue. And so it needs to go to the people that help create it. And also using AI models to solve problems that exist within this space. And so within crypto, AI seems to have been used up until this point for large language model types of products like community moderation or management, the automation of trading signals, etc. But there's so much more that it can do, really, not only on the tech front, but the operational side as well, and that extends outside of the industry. So there's a lot, I think, to see and watch. It's going to change not only crypto, but virtually every industry, mostly through automation and improving efficiency and processes, I think.
Yeah, so the one of the main points here is that it's something that is basically going to happen. It's going to happen to crypto as well in different forms. It's going to impact our industry as well, like it will impact every single industry out there. So that's a great note to kind of stop for now. Maybe someday in the future we can discuss again, Sasha. But I think it was very, very useful information for our listeners. So thank you very much for that.
And thank you so much for having me on, Robbie. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
You too. And thanks everybody for watching. Goodbye.